Hello, thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of Barnard College and Women in Hollywood, I am so excited to welcome you to the 11th annual Athena Film Festival. Our festival is dedicated to celebrating the stories of bold, courageous women leaders and the filmmakers who bring these stories to life. So I'm really excited that you're here with us for this conversation. My name is Corey Luca, and I am a programmer and an operations assistant with the festival. I would like to mention that this festival, of course, would not be possible without the support of our dedicated sponsors. So please join me in thanking Athena's founding sponsor, the Artemis Rising Foundation, and its CEO and founder, Regina K. Scully, whose visionary leadership makes our work possible. Also, a special thank you to our premier level sponsor, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, who shares our commitment to showcasing stories of women in science and bringing them to you on screen. To all of our sponsors, whose names you will see before each film and event, thank you so much for your commitment to challenging our culture to be more inclusive and inspiring audiences in the process. This past year has, of course, been a wake-up call for us. And when we were faced with the challenge of bringing our programming virtual, we wanted to make sure that we were bringing something new, exciting, and also something that dug deeper into our programming this year. So we created 8 different program areas that react and respond to the current moment. The short film program that you have just watched and now are at the Q&A of is our A Look at Health program. And in this program, we dive into the questions of how we deal with the large sphere of health, physical health, mental health, community health, public health, socioeconomic health, with a focus on the ongoing fights for reproductive rights, justice, and then disparities also in maternal health care. I am incredibly excited to introduce our moderator for our shorts program today, Opal Hope Bennett, who is the senior programmer at the Athena Film Festival and a wonderful person. So, Opal, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Corey. Great to see you virtually. And so wonderful to have all of filmmakers here with us. It's so wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your work. It's a pleasure to be featuring all of you this season. I'm going to ask each of you to go around and introduce yourselves, please, and your film. Let's start with Sathi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today and watching our films. I'm Sathi. I'm the writer-director of Blood and Glory. And Blood and Glory is a short film about the friendship between 2 female veterans who are living on the streets of LA, and it's how they're trying to get through this one day when one of them gets a really heavy period and it kind of derails their dreams for a better life.
Thank you. Next, Inez.
Hi. First of all, sorry for my English because I'm right now in Spain. This is kind of late. So, well, I'm Inez. I'm writer and director of Freaks. It is a short film about how chemicals and the pills and stuff affect us when we need maybe a different sort of approachment to our mental disease. So it would be like a short part of the short film. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's all good. And guys, this is post the screening, so just your name and your film is good. Everybody's seen it. So let's go to Natasha.
Hi, my name is Natasha Ngaiza. I'm the writer-director of A Mother.
Thank you. Charlotta?
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm Denise. I'm the writer and director of Bye Bye Body.
Thank you. I'm adding a syllable to your name there. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Sandoval. I'm the director and the writer for Immaculate or Inmaculada.
And I think it says YJ?
Yes, hi, I'm YJ Mayra, and I'm the producer on Blood and Glory with Sathi.
It's okay, brilliant. So you guys are creative partners. Fantastic. So as Corey said, the thematic grouping of this program is around health and and challenges and considerations around that topic. And I just wanted to delve right into your films. Each of your films are narrative films, so you chose to craft a story around this topic. So curious to hear from each of you. One, how the story came about, and then two, if you could talk about why it was important for you to tackle issue of health in the story. Let's go to Charlotte first.
Great. Nice to meet all of you guys, first of all, and congratulations on your films, and thank you so much for having us. Yeah, so Bye Bye Body is about a young woman who fails to meet her goal weight at weight loss camp, and yeah, I feel like I was seeing a lot of sort of body positive messaging, which sort of was charging young women with the task of being confident in a world that doesn't actively actually support that for them. Like, you constantly see things on Instagram or on social media of people telling young women, like, oh, like, love yourself, like, take a bath, hug yourself. And this film, I think, sort of deals with, I don't know, I just sort of wanted to take on a film that showed that it's okay to want to be sort of cared for and loved by other people as well, in addition to loving and caring for yourself. So the film sort of came about, I think, out of a number of things. One, I myself was sent to weight loss camp as a kid and had sort of a variety of experiences there, which had stayed with me. And then second of all, yeah, just wanted to show bigger bodies and sort of showcase those stories.
Absolutely. And Natasha?
Yeah, so my film is about abortion. It's about a mother who is, sort of struggling with her decision to abort what would be her third child. And I was inspired by my own experiences as a mom to three daughters and the experiences that I went through in the healthcare system. Just having very different experiences. The first time in Philadelphia, the second time in Santiago, Chile, actually, and then the third time in Vermont. And just seeing the ways that my body was kind of treated, the ways that sort of intersected with being a Black woman, and then learning in my third pregnancy, I learned that there was this really huge article that came out by ProPublica and NPR, and it was like this terrible headline that said, "Nothing will save a Black woman from dying in childbirth." It was something like not your class, not your level of education, like the rates of mortality in the United States are so bad. And so that, freaked me out. And so I wanted to explore that kind of what it feels like to be in that space of like being anxious about giving birth, of having the sort of external, I don't want to, it's not racial pressures, but that racism is kind of always a factor, right? Playing on even these decisions around healthcare. So yeah, that's my film.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a topic that we discussed internally when programming your film, and yeah, thank you for tackling that. And then Sati and YJ, talk to us about Blood and Glory and the veteran story that you profile.
I wrote the story a few years ago. I used to volunteer on Skid Row, and as many people know, there's a huge concentration of people without homes living on the streets there. And one night while I was out there, I saw a woman walk past me, and she had her dog tags on and her combat boots, and I realized she was a veteran. I'm a veteran myself, and so like you pick up on these things when you see somebody else. And when I saw her back, she had a large period stain on the back. And that image of this veteran who's really struggling, living on the streets, dealing with her period, it just kind of like stayed with me and haunted me, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I ended up writing the earlier draft of a script that eventually became Blood and Glory. And our goal, the film was made through this organization called Women in Media. YJ can speak to that and how, what our goals with the film are.
Yes, so Sati was one of the top 3 finalists. So what that meant is that Women in Media was supporting us from pre-production all the way through post-production. And so why this is important is because, as Sati said, I mean, we haven't seen this type of story on the big screen before, and it brings to light the issues that female veterans, and specifically homeless female veterans, face, and also the issue of period poverty in this country, which Sati and I have talked about. We think about it as like something that happened somewhere else in some other country, but it's actually all around us here, and an issue that we want to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I liked how all of your stories, and certainly in Blood and Glory, you discussed sort of intersecting topics so beautifully. And I think that a narrative, creative landscape gives you a lot of, latitude to do that in, to really, have the issue impact audience, through a creative presentation, but, definitely reflecting realities that folks are facing. I would like to go to you, Inez, and please share with us about, your inspiration behind writing this script of Freaks.
Well, my inspiration, I don't know, because I'm a psychologist myself. I have never studied cinema or whatever, so in my case, it was something that, I don't know, something I needed to tell to the world. But health in this case was like a vehicle to tell something else. To it's like someone fighting against a stigma of mental health, of being treated like a freak because you have a mental disease. So I wasn't sure about what I wanted to tell exactly, but finally it came like, tarados, freaks. So I also wanted it to be something dramatic, but also funny, because this girl has like this disease that when she's very nervous or anxious, she cannot answer with anything else but a song, to the the person that she's speaking with. So I wanted to, to balance, drama and comedy in a way, and also, I don't know, I wanted her to be like a fighter, against all this society stigma about mental health, and to be like a role model to all these people or persons that are actually struggling with mental health. But I didn't know how to, end up like this, because I'm a psychologist. I don't know. I've been like fighting for the short film for 5 years, and then it came, it became Tarados, Freaks. So this is the story of my short film.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And it's always, as somebody in this field, it's always great to hear someone trying their creative hand to share stories from from the space that they're, more rooted in. I did not know that. I thought you were a filmmaker. That's great to know. And yeah, I thought that was a really useful device to insert levity, discussions around mental health, or for whatever reason, often tinged with a stigma. And it's really important to, of course, try to avoid that and fight through it, because many people have to grapple with it. I'm going to go to you, Stephanie. Talk to us about the inspiration behind Immaculate.
Yeah. So Immaculate is based in my own first period story. I want to tell a story about first periods because it's such an intense time in like a woman's life, and I also find it a really interesting moment to connect with between mothers and daughters, because growing up in like a very Catholic culture, which is funny because Natasha was saying that one of her children was born in Santiago, Chile, and that's where I'm from. So growing up there, it was very hard to talk about that moment in a woman's life. I never heard about it until I was right about to have my first period from my mom. And she was like, it's a beautiful moment. And they're like, a single drop of blood. Well, it's just like this beautiful fairy tale. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, totally fine. But when it happened to me, I thought I was like bleeding to death. I just like had all these things. I thought I was this terrible person. Like, why is it happening to me? So I just really wanted at some point to tell that story or something similar about it. And what was funny to me is that since making it, like a lot of people, when they see it, women come up to me and they're like, oh my God, my first period, and they tell me their first period story. So it just makes me realize that this is, even though it's so like, we have periods every month, right? Most people, not all the time, but it's something that we live with, and you don't talk about it that much. I feel like now people are talking about it. But yeah, I thought it was something that needed to be out there. I just really wanted to bring it into the light and hopefully make a movie that maybe at some point can be also shown to people of that age, like girls that age.
Yeah.
So they know that it's a thing. Like it's not just like a taboo. And they can see, you see it as like an older woman, not older, but like, grown up woman.
Mm.
And maybe it's like, oh yeah, whatever. But I mean, when I've shown it to teenagers, they like really connect. And so I don't know, I just feel like that's where like the importance of the story lied in.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that, because I think it's a good segue for where I want to go in this discussion. So a lot of your films are talking about topics that not just women deal with, human beings have to deal with on a regular basis. Yes, menstruation is specific to cisgendered female, those born biologically female, but mental health issues, issues around, sexuality, body issues, and so forth. What I love about these films is that you create space through the stories that you're telling, where audience can find touchstones. You create space to make it safe to discuss these kinds of topics. And I wanted to talk a bit about, like destigmatizing topics like menstruation. It's a good point, Stephanie, because I think not only are you seeing it spoken about more in films, you're seeing it shown in films, like actual,
right,
blood and stain, and something that's an everyday part of, many women's lives, at a certain point in your life. It's always shrouded in such taboo. So yeah, I would love for each of you, for the specific topics that you tackle in your film, can you talk about, like, as you were creating it and thinking about destigmatizing, speaking about areas that might have been a space of taboo, what you wanted audiences to take away from their experience of the story that you're telling. And I'll toss it to you, Natasha, first.
Sure. So that's a great question. I found it tricky, not tricky, but maybe especially challenging, given abortion is such a hot topic and people feel very strongly about it. I wanted it to be very clear that this was a woman who has decided to get an abortion and she was going to go through with the abortion, and that there was no judgment about her decision to do that, right? But I did want to show still the struggles that she's going through, that it wasn't just, although for some people it is, right? For some people it is a very easy decision and they make the decision and they can kind of move on. But for other people it isn't. And so I wanted to be with her and give her space to take us through her journey of like feeling sad, feeling anxious. She gets obsessed with this little girl who's on the news, who's disappeared. And that's her kind of way of dealing with a loss in a way. But still, I really, it was important to me that I wasn't saying abortion is wrong, or that, she shouldn't do it, or that she wasn't going to do it, right? It was absolutely important for me that she went through with it in the end. And also to show something else that I found, that in the stories that I've seen about abortions, most of the time you don't really see mothers getting abortions in movies. Although mothers apparently get abortions more than any other demographic, actually. So women who've already had a live birth, or the statistics, are more likely to get an abortion. And when I heard that statistic, I was like, oh my gosh, why don't we hear more about that? Why don't we see more about that, right? There's all this like secrecy around it. And, and I feel like that secrecy lends itself to a narrative about the kinds of women that get abortions, that it's not nuanced. It's not telling the whole story, right? So that was my sort of process. Am I answering the whole question? I feel like there's so many things going through my head. I think.
Yeah, no, you absolutely are. And I'm glad you made that point about, there's a certain, it's almost propagandistic, like the certain angles that are shown on, real life, sort of true stories that make an impression upon us that's not necessarily accurate to real life. And so, that the point you made about like the actual statistics of who actually gets abortions, right? If you ask, I feel like the average person, it's always framed in terms of teenage girls who don't know any better, or are supposed to not know any better. And it's like, well, that's not true to life, right? And so, telling stories that are, one, making space for issues that are specific to women, or that women have to grapple with in specific ways, but also that are, shining a light on the whole truth. Yeah, absolutely. Charlotte. Sorry, go ahead.
There's one other thing that I just remembered that I also was important to me, which is that, she's not also, I didn't want to show a woman who was in some catastrophe in her life, right? It wasn't that she was homeless, or that she, her husband has left her. She has from what it looks like, a stable marriage, a nice house. She lives a good life, but it's something that she has made, a decision she's made on her own, that are related to other, psychological reasons, anxiety, whatever it might be. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much. Charlotte.
I just want to hear Natasha speak for the rest of the Q&A. I'm like, let's watch this movie immediately. This sounds amazing. I'm very excited to watch it. In terms of destigmatizing, I think we wanted to sort of center a larger woman and like a larger woman having sort of female desire on screen and not shaming that. I feel like within the sort of framework of like sort of Taylor Swift era pop feminism, like there isn't a lot of space for that, and or not in its nuance, which is that, you know, a young woman can sleep with someone who isn't necessarily like the star of the football team in a high school house party upstairs in an empty bedroom. Like I was interested in sort of showing coming into sexuality stories that were truer to the experiences of both myself and my friends, which is that even when you're having these sort of encounters with people who are maybe, you know, less than high school varsity football star or whatever, those experiences still affect the way that you feel about your body, and that's fine and valid. I feel like we're not allowing as much space for that. And in terms of sort of showing a larger woman as the protagonist of a film, as opposed to like a comic, you know, side character, or and sort of highlighting what it feels like to feel trapped within your own body in that way and feel not at home within one's own body, was sort of central. And it's been really, really nice to have had a response to the film that has included sort of a really wide variety of people. I didn't feel like the film would be as resonant as it was, so it's been a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was very refreshing to see on screen. There's you know, female sexuality, the beginning of it, the sort of grappling with it. You know, yours is a very contemporary depiction. I think that is, you know, very much showing the evolution and sort of the, you know, extra freeing that's going on, right? Free love generation is supposed to have been in the 70s, and I feel like, you know, we're coming into a different age of that includes, you know, a very sort of individual interrogation of it. That was great to see. I'm gonna go to Sati and YJ.
You know, I think Stephanie talked a little bit about this in for the reasons that she made her film. But, you know, women have been menstruating from the beginning of time, and we're over half the population of this world. And yet when it comes to periods, there's so much, it is a taboo subject. There's so much shame around it. There's so much like, hush, hush, don't talk about it. And, you know, just thinking about like my time in the military, more and more women are joining the military, you know, that they have joined in the last 20 years. We're serving in combat zones. We're doing all the jobs that our male counterparts are doing. But there's still so much, there's a lack of conversation within the military about what it is to be a menstruator in the military, like when you're on your deployments, having access to the products that you need. But then also stateside, I think what YJ said, when we think about period poverty, we think about those other countries who have this issue, while we have such a blind spot for what's happening in our own backyards, right? I think in the US, it's 1 in 5 young women don't have access to period products and have to create makeshift pads, you know, from a t-shirt or a sock or whatever. And as the, you know, the income gap widens, you know, you have more and more young people who are faced with these challenges. Like when you have your first period, what do you do? What do you have access to? And so like our hope is that we can, with this film, I mean, the film is about a very specific experience of a homeless veteran, right? But even just seeing that, we hope that it kind of makes you think about, first of all, like who's serving in our military? What do veterans look like? What kind of services do we need for female veterans when they transition back to civilian life, so they can be supported? Because a lot of our services are tailored towards men, because historically it's been men who go to war, but these wars are completely different, you know? And a lot of female soldiers who come back actually do struggle with, I think something like over 60% of them struggle with a housing crisis, because when it comes to any kind of shelters, they don't allow veterans with children, and women usually tend to have children. So a lot of these women end up staying at friends' places and families' places while they're trying to figure out how to get back on their feet. And then, of course, in the very extreme circumstance, they do end up living on the street, which, of course, is very hard to get back out of that cycle. And a lot of time, it is layered with military sexual trauma. It is layered with PTSD and other mental health issues. That, again, those are all stigmas that we don't talk about. We don't have enough support to tackle those. So there's a lot in the movie, but we hope that people will bring their own understanding to it and take from it whatever it is that they connect to. They take that and they figure out a way to be part of that conversation and within their communities and create a more equitable, future in society.
Yeah, in terms of the impact there, if audience members wanted to participate with a group that's directly doing that sort of work or support, where would you suggest they turn?
I'll take that, because I think that sort of what Sati just shared leads into, in fact, just earlier today, we had a roundtable with an organization called period.org. And they do a lot of work around period poverty and the pink tax and all of those issues. So that is a partner that we're campaigning with this month. In fact, that's another way to watch the film through the end of the month. And out of that came other conversations. So I think there's going to be some other work that we'll be doing around it. So that's definitely an organization right now that you can immediately engage with.
Fantastic. And then I'm going to toss it to Inez and then Stephanie. Again, this working with a topic where you're trying to unseat or address taboos and unseat, mind blockages around it. What do you want people to take away from their viewing of Freaks?
Well, to me, the script was like some sort of riddle, because for me it was like I have never ever written, a script in my life. So it was like a riddle and a puzzle and trying to, to create something that could be, that could have like a meaning, could be understood to others. And it was a really hard work in that part of the process. To me, what I wanted people to, I just wanted to move people to, for them to get out of the room and feel like moved by Sarah's story, and to be changed in a way, to feel different after watching the short film. It wasn't necessary for them to think about the topic of stigma or the medication or whatever, but to feel to feel some sort of change in their lives, or to see these people in a different kind of way, like real persons, like real people.
Yeah.
But first of all, to move them. I was like always, if someone just feels moved with my short film, like that's enough for me. I don't need anything else. After 5 years of working, if someone, just a person, feels moved by it, it's perfect for me.
Yeah, look, I always feel like film in particular is such a great vehicle for empathy. All right, to see a story of, another human and to feel like you can stand in their shoes for 18 minutes. So yeah, thank you for that. We're going to wrap up with you, Stephanie, to please tell us what you want folks to take away from the taboo busting that you're doing in Immaculate Hair.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the main aspect is teenagers getting their period, which I connect with Blood and Glory, the film, and with Sadie and YJ were saying. It's like this idea that it's like there's like still women that don't have access to period like items. And I also wanted to add that like I recently saw this ad for like this like period panty, and I was like, why is this like a new thing? Like we've always had periods. We have cars that are like they're self-driving, and right now we're coming out with something that's not a giant pad to put in your like underwear. Anyway, but something else that I wanted to bring up with this movie is sexuality in like teenage girls. I wanted to bring up the fact that girls also have sexual thoughts and are curious about their sexuality as much as boys. And I don't know if like it's groundbreaking from my movie, but like it's just I just wanted to bring it up. I wanted to like make it like normal, and I think it's just important to start that conversation as well. So I would bring like those to me were the two main things that I don't know if like I want people to be like, this film teaches a lesson. No, but like I do want people to talk to each other after watching the film, even if it's to say like, what's wrong with this girl or whatever. But yeah, that would be important to me.
Well, there will definitely be lots of talking to each other after watching this block of films for sure. And I want to thank each of you for talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Natasha, Inez, Charlotte, Stephanie, Sati, and YJ. Congratulations on some brilliant work. And thank you, audience, for joining us. Please check out the rest of the Shorts program. For now, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.